pause. Before we dive into this story, I need to warn you. What you're about to hear will shake you to your core. This isn't just another tragic accident. This is the story of Jessica Radcliffe, a woman who dedicated her entire life to the ocean's most powerful predators, only to have that very devotion become her downfall in the most horrifying way imaginable. On July 6, 2011, in front of over 2,000 screaming spectators, Jessica's dream became a nightmare that would change everything we thought we knew about marine entertainment forever. Stay with me until the end, because after you hear this story, you'll never look at marine parks the same way again. Jessica Radcliffe believed she could tame the untamable. She thought love could conquer the primal instincts of a 12,000-pound apex predator. But on that fateful summer day at Ocean Haven, the ocean reminded everyone watching exactly who was really in control. And it did so in the most brutal, unforgiving way possible. Picture this. It's a perfect California afternoon, the kind that makes you believe everything is right with the world. Ocean Haven Stadium is packed to capacity with over 2,000 excited guests. Families on vacation, children clutching cotton candy, teenagers taking selfies. The atmosphere is electric with anticipation. Everyone's here to see the star of the show, Malo the Orca, and his beloved trainer Jessica Radcliffe. For years, they had been the golden duo of marine entertainment, their bond so strong that crowds would gasp in wonder at their synchronized performances. Jessica enters the stadium with her trademark confident smile, waving to the cheering crowd. She's done this routine hundreds of times before. To her, this is just another Tuesday at the office. But what nobody in that stadium knows, not Jessica, not the crowd, not even the other trainers, is that they're about to witness something that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. The show begins flawlessly. Malo responds perfectly to every cue, executing spins and breaches that send cascades of water into the delighted audience. Cameras flash, children scream with joy, and everything seems absolutely perfect. This is what Jessica had dreamed of since she was 7 years old, growing up in Santa Cruz with a marine biologist father who first introduced her to the magic of orcas in the wild. But then, in an instant, everything changes. Jessica gracefully dives into the water for what should have been a routine synchronized swim. The crowd leans forward, anticipating another spectacular display of the bond between human and whale. Malo begins circling in his usual wide arc, and for a moment everything feels normal. Then it happens. Without warning, without any sign of distress or agitation, Malo suddenly pivots with lightning speed. His massive 12,000-pound body surges through the water with terrifying force, and his jaws powerful enough to crush a car, clamp down around Jessica's torso with a sickening impact that echoes across the entire stadium. The crowd's cheers instantly turn to gasps of horror. Parents instinctively try to shield their children's eyes, but it's too late. Everyone sees it. The water explodes into thrashing white foam, and then, within seconds, it begins turning red. Jessica's arms flail briefly above the surface before she's dragged under. The audience sits in stunned silence, many still thinking this must be part of the show, some elaborate special effect. But the other trainers know better. They spring into action, frantically blowing whistles, throwing fish, shouting commands, doing everything in their training manual to get Malo to release his grip. But Malo doesn't respond. For the first time in his captive life, he completely ignores every command, every whistle, every desperate attempt to regain control. The raw, primal instinct of the ocean's apex predator has taken over, and no amount of training, no amount of trust, no amount of love can override what nature has programmed into his DNA. The stadium descends into absolute chaos. Alarms blare, the cheerful music cuts out mid-beat, and what was supposed to be a family-friendly entertainment experience transforms into a scene straight out of a horror movie. Paramedics rush to the scene as trainers finally manage to retrieve Jessica's lifeless body from the water. For 20 agonizing minutes, they perform CPR while the crowd watches in stunned silence. Children cry, parents whisper prayers, and the entire stadium holds its breath, hoping against hope for a miracle that will never come. What? And the paramedics finally stop when the silence stretches on just a little too long. Everyone knows. Jessica Radcliffe is gone. But here's what makes this story even more heartbreaking and infuriating. This tragedy didn't come out of nowhere. There were warning signs, red flags that Ocean Haven's management chose to ignore because money talked louder than safety. In the weeks leading up to July 6th, Malo had been displaying increasingly erratic behavior. He had been lunging at food buckets with unusual force, splashing trainers more aggressively, and in one terrifying incident, nearly took a colleague's hand clean off. Trainers had been filing incident reports, documenting his growing restlessness, his refusal to follow previously reliable cues, and his disturbing habit of ramming the glass walls of his tank with reverberating force. But Ocean Haven was making too much money to listen. Summer crowds were strong, ticket sales were booming, and Malo was their poster boy, literally. His face was on merchandise, promotional materials, and billboards across California. The financial stakes were too high to bench their star performer over what management dismissed as moodiness. Even Jessica herself, despite her deep connection with marine life, had fallen into the trap of believing that love could override instinct. She recorded Malo's odd behaviors in her notes, but continued to trust in their relationship. She dismissed her coworkers' growing concerns, confident that her bond with the massive Orca was stronger than any primal urge. She was wrong. Tragically, fatally wrong. The aftermath was swift and devastating. Ocean Haven's gates shut within hours as media vans circled like vultures. The official statement called it a tragic accident, but that sanitized language couldn't erase the trauma etched into the minds of over 2,000 witnesses. Parents reported their children having nightmares for months. Teenagers uploaded shaky phone footage to the internet, spreading the horror across social media platforms. Jessica's memorial service was held at the California coast, where she had first fallen in love with the ocean as a child. Her ashes were scattered in the Pacific, a final return to the wild waters that had both inspired and claimed her life. But Jessica's death sparked something bigger than grief. It ignited a national conversation about the ethics of marine entertainment. Protesters gathered at Ocean Haven's gates with signs reading, "Free the whales," and "Jessica died for your entertainment." Former trainers came forward with buried safety reports and memos that exposed how Ocean Haven had prioritized profits over people for years. Within 6 months, Ocean Haven permanently closed its doors. Lo was relocated to a Pacific Northwest sanctuary where he would never again perform for crowds or live in close contact with human trainers. The era of trainers swimming with orcas for public entertainment effectively ended that day in July. The questions Jessica's death raised still haunt us today. Do we have the right to cage the ocean's most intelligent predators for our entertainment? How do we assign blame when human ambition collides with wild instinct? And perhaps most importantly, what does it say about us as a society that it took a young woman's brutal death to finally acknowledge what marine biologists had been saying for decades? Jessica Radcliffe died believing she could bridge the gap between human and animal, between civilization and the wild. Her tragedy serves as a brutal reminder that some boundaries exist for a reason, and that the ocean's memory is both eternal and unforgiving. The next time you see a marine show, remember Jessica's story. Remember that behind every spectacular performance lies a wild creature whose true nature can never be completely tamed, no matter how much we love them or how much we want to believe otherwise. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.